Right, this is going to be the first in a series of videos that I'm going to do, which is going to cover all the main lifestyle related conditions that we're dealing with in society at the moment. I'll go into a bit of the science of each of them, why they happen, who's at risk, what causes them, and most importantly, what we can do to either prevent this from happening in the first place, or if you do have one of these conditions, hopefully the information in these videos will make it easier for you to put some changes in place that can support you as well. Obviously, make sure you speak to your doctor. It's not medical advice or anything like that. Okay, so the first condition we'll go through here is osteoporosis. Now, this is a really common condition and it's related to low bone density. Okay, so if you have osteoporosis, it means you have low bone density. The main thing to understand of this is that your bones are living tissue. So your bones have a blood supply, they grow, they adapt, and they are subject to health problems just like any other part of the body. So they aren't just sort of solid bits of material that hold you up. They are adapting and changing, and if you don't look after them, there can be consequences. So osteoporosis, how do you get diagnosed? What is it? So when you have osteoporosis, usually you don't know about it until you get a fracture or an unexplained break or something like that happens to you. Usually it's something that shouldn't cause a fracture or break, so your doctor might say, that happened a little bit too easily, that shouldn't have happened that much, or it's a bit too severe for what happened to you. And they might diagnose you with osteoporosis if you have all of the risk factors, or they might send you to get a DEXA scan and be tested further. Now, I'll put a screenshot up about, it's from the NHS website, just showing basically how they measure people's bone density. So what you can see is they use something called a T-score. So anything above -1 on your T-score when you go and get a DEXA scan is good. That's normal bone density, standard differentiation, I think they call it, for your age group. So a T-score of above -1 is good. You've got nothing to worry about there. If you have a T-score below -1 and up to -2.5, then that's osteopenia. So that's basically pre-osteoporosis. Now, it's better to catch this in its early stages. So if you've got a T-score of -1.5, then good, you've caught it earlier and you can really go at doing something about it. If you've got a T-score of -2.5 or lower, so say your T-score's -2.5 or -3, that's firmly within osteoporosis territory. That's very low bone density and you're at risk of fractures, breaks, and all of these other unpleasant things that come along with that. I'll just put a little diagram up on the screen. This is not a medical scan or a real image. This is a very simplified illustration just so you can see what it sort of looks like and what the concept is. On the left, you've got like a really dense block of bone. You can see it's a little bit porous, but it's mostly solid, and that's good. In the middle, you can see a deteriorated sort of section of bone, more porous, more gaps. And on the right, you can see really deteriorated bone, proper severe osteoporosis. So again, not a real medical scan, but that is sort of a simplified concept just so you can understand what happens to the bones. Alright, so the causes and who's at risk is, I think, what everyone wants to know. So causes of osteoporosis include bad diet. So when I say bad diet, I mean you don't get enough protein, you don't get enough calcium, and people who have a low body mass index, BMI, are at risk because you're more likely to not be receiving the adequate amount of these nutrients and nutrients in general. People who have had eating disorders such as anorexia and bulimia, especially when they're younger, when they're growing, are at risk of osteoporosis as well for the same reason. You haven't had the nutrition in order for your bones to build up the proper amount of density. Some inflammatory conditions, there are so many of these, I'm not going to go into all these, but some inflammatory conditions can be a risk. Not exercising is a contributor to osteoporosis as well, and so is smoking and alcohol use, and generally poor diet lots of empty calories, no nutritional value. Other groups who are at risk are older people, so age is a factor, although this is non-modifiable, you can't do anything about your age, unfortunately. And hormone changes, particularly in women. Lower testosterone in men as they age can be a little bit of a contributing factor, but women who go through the menopause are at risk of osteoporosis. This is a well-known thing, so it's always good to go and get checked for that. So as you can see, there are quite a few different things that can contribute to lower bone density, and the consequences of lower bone density are, like I said earlier, breaks, fractures, and just frailty in old age, and just generally feeling like you can't be active and do the things that you want to do. So we want to avoid that, really. So the most important part of the video is really, what can we do about it? What do you do to stop yourself from getting osteoporosis, okay? And the biggest thing that you can do is exercise and eat properly. So resistance training, particularly, using weights or just your own body weight, any kind of resistance training is fantastic at building up bone density, because you put your bones under stress and they respond to that stress by getting denser, which is the complete opposite of osteoporosis, and that's exactly what we want to see. So for example, you see in the gym, if you're doing a back squat or a deadlift, or if you're just doing a bodyweight squat, or you're doing a pull-up, or you're generally using your body to move things around, that is great for your bone density. Some cardiovascular activity can also contribute to your bone density, walking, jumping, skipping, but not necessarily swimming or on a bike, cycling, because that doesn't take a lot of your body weight. Obviously you're unweighted during swimming, and cycling you're relatively unweighted as well, so that doesn't contribute as heavily towards your bone density as something like walking up a hill, or just walking or jogging in general might do. So that's from an exercise perspective. You don't have to do loads, you don't have to be a strong man or a powerlifter or anything crazy like that. You just have to do a couple of days a week of strength training and you will be absolutely fine for most people. So the second thing is nutrition. So none of this will go anywhere without nutrition. So for your nutrition, you need to have, and I keep saying this all the time, but a balanced whole foods based diet. Lots of protein. Try to get at least 1 gram per kilogram body weight, if not more than that if you're training, 1.4, 1.6, that would be better. Calcium, okay, you get calcium from dairy, from all sorts of dairy products. You get it from lots of green leafy vegetables, and it's in some pulses and legumes as well. Okay, so there's lots of different sources of calcium that you can use to get into your diet. And these are the things that are going to make it possible for you to have high bone density, and you will have a significantly lower risk from lifestyle related osteoporosis. The things where we will run into some issues are if someone has a genetic predisposition towards osteoporosis, and then these things still matter. So if you are predisposed to osteoporosis, you've got it in the family, you've got it, that's something you're at risk of. Having good bone density, because you train a lot, you're strong, you eat well, this will still lower your risk. So even if you've been told you have a risk of this happening to you, these things will still lower your risk dramatically. Okay, so if you're really strong, you can move a lot of weight, you eat properly, even if you've got a big risk, it's more likely that you're going to have high bone density, because you literally have to if you're doing those activities. Alright, just to wrap up the video then, guys, so last couple of bits, people sometimes ask about supplements. Do we need to take any supplements? Now, the best thing here I can say is make sure that your vitamin D levels are okay. So I'm not going to advise any particular level of vitamin D supplementation, because I can't do that, I'm not a medical professional, but you should know that most people in the UK, or a large percentage of the population, are vitamin D deficient, particularly in the winter months. And vitamin D is one of the biggest contributors to bone health when all else is equal. So if you're eating properly, you're exercising, but you've got really, really low vitamin D levels, this can negatively affect you. And remember, if you're at risk, every little thing you can do to help will lower that risk. even if it's a little bit higher than the average person. Other things that might happen is the doctor might prescribe you, they might tell you to take vitamin D, they might do a test and tell you to take so much vitamin D. That's a high possibility. They may also prescribe you with bone building medications. There are quite a lot of those, and that would be something that they can do to support you as well. And they will tell you to eat properly and exercise, that's guaranteed. And they might refer you to an exercise referral program or tell you to go to the gym or something like that. So just to finish, basically, this is not the end of the world, okay? If you are at risk, or if you just don't want to be at any risk at all, if you want to lower your risk as much as you can, nothing is ever zero, obviously. Eat properly, exercise, get loads of protein, eat enough calcium, make sure your vitamin D levels are high enough, and you will have done pretty much everything you can to help lower your risk of this condition. So thank you for watching, guys. I'm still learning how to use the video editing software, so I do apologise. Being totally blind and using the video editor is an interesting experience, so I hope that's not too disruptive. But thank you for watching. Please share, comment, let me know what you think.